All right, we're live.
We're rolling, baby. It's November.
November. I can't believe it's November, man.
It's a fresh start. That's what it feels like right now. I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, fresh start, new beginnings. That fingers crossed. You know what I mean? That's how I'm kind of
Exactly.
feeling right now. Hey guys, so Montana ran into the third loss of the season, following Weber State 24-21. Tonight's podcast will consist of just kind of recapping the game, followed by a preview of our next opponent in Cal Poly. But before we get into that, man, we got a couple Grizz updates today.
Yes, we do. We got some Grizz updates for you.
Adam, take it away.
All right. So men's and women's tennis this week, November 4th through the 6th, they are at the Bulldog Classic, Gonzaga. If you don't know where Bulldog Classic is, Spokane, Washington. So they
Spokompton.
Compton?
Spokompton.
Spokompton? That's what they call it, huh?
Yeah, you never heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's the thing these days. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm going crazy.
Now it's not going to stick in my head, man. Spokompton.
My bad. Spokompton. Go ahead. Continue.
Going on, man. I believe we're doing this Wednesday. I should check on that because Portland State and the Grizz played in the Big Sky tournament in soccer.
And they won.
They won?
Grizz won, baby.
Nice.
Come on, Adam. Keep up with the times.
See,
you're getting
so
old.
Hey, it only happened today. So they will play Friday against the number 2 seed in Idaho.
Yep.
They played them earlier this year. It was a 1-0 Idaho win, which it was, if I believe correctly, if I'm remembering this, it was really late in the game where they tied. So pretty level team. So if Lady Grizz soccer wins that game, they'll be in the conference championship game on Sunday. Guys, you can watch these games in ESPN Plus, so totally check it out. It is at 11 a.m. So I will maybe I can make it. Maybe. But definitely if you don't have work, man, definitely check it out. Support the Grizz.
You know what I smell, Adam?
What's that?
I smell an upset. That's what I smell.
An upset? I think I'm just gonna predict this. This team is so close, man. Like all year long, I could see this team going and just running through the Big Sky Conference Championship, and then going into the NCAA tournament and pulling off a first round upset there because they have the talent. They have the talent. They have the coaching staff. They have the mindset, and they've been there. So.
Exactly. Well, knock on wood. I'm not predicting anything, but I smell it. I feel it.
I knocked on wood for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Volleyball, man. They are back at it Thursday night. I think that they've got like 2 or 3 more home games. They are against Portland State and Sacramento State. Portland State, I believe, is the number 1 team right now in the Big Sky. So definitely go support the ladies at 7 p.m. there. And then they are at Sacramento State, or they're in Missoula, sorry. All those can be viewed on ESPN Plus, but if you're in Missoula, man, there's no way that you should be watching this on ESPN Plus. You should be supporting the Lady Grizz volleyball team and supporting them. That Sacramento State game is interesting because if you're going to the football game and you're tailgating, just go into the Sacramento State volleyball game. It's at noon, right? You got a 6 o'clock kick for the football game. Go in there, waste a couple hours, cheer on the volleyball team, go back to your tailgating, and then go watch football.
So you're saying you support the use of alcohol on a game day?
Well, that's what you're supposed to, right?
Exactly. I just wanted to confirm with you, Adam. Don't get scared. I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, I almost brought one in here to drink while we were doing this, but I should have.
You know what I've been into lately? Wine, man.
Wine.
I just picked it up.
Okay, so what? And this is going off topic. What's your favorite, Angel? Favorite wine?
Oh, I'm a red drinker.
See, oh man.
What do you have to say about that? What is it this time?
What is it this time? So I like whites and like the fruity stuff because that's just me, right? But I was getting into reds a while back, a couple years ago, and this is way too much information, but there's this one that was like really fruity. It was like red, right? And I was drinking it, and I was like, oh, I got a little stomach ache, and they say, drink some red wine, and it'll help. Totally did, totally helped. Kind of settled my stomach. It was around Christmas time. I think it was Christmas. We had Christmas, whatever, came back home that night, man. Oh, it was Mount St. Helens, dude. I was throwing up. And so I had wine. And so when I was throwing up, it was
you thought of
taste. It was the taste of that wine, and I could smell it. I have not been able to drink red wine since, just because it's like if I smell red wine, I'll be like, I'll get like the.
It's okay, brother. I feel the same exact way when it comes to Everclear. So we're all right. We're gonna be all right.
Oh man. Well, that's all I have that's all I have for Grizz updates, man.
Yeah, 100%, man.
There's some sports that are kind of in lingo right now of kind of on an off week. Man, let's that's the wrong one. Why didn't I change that? Whoops. Sorry, Weber State. I totally dissed you. I put Sac State instead of Weber State.
Oh, bonehead.
Hey, I can't remember. Mistake. I can't remember one loss from the next loss.
It all kind of blurs up. The whole month kind of blurs together. Oh, man.
Well, and I heard Riley saying that if we win against Cal Poly, it'll be 34 days in between wins.
Really?
34 days.
That's a long time, man.
That's just a long time.
Yeah. I think I've just got out of a span of a little bit of a depression over the past month, man. So again, it's November. I'm hoping for good things, but we got to talk about the game just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
just a little bit. Yeah. So let's take it. Let's break down the scores. Then we'll get into offense. Then we'll kind of break down defense, special teams, and then we'll go into our preview with Cal Poly. So looking quarter by quarter, let's start off with Weber. They scored 7 in the first, 3 in the second, 7 in the third, and then also another 7 in the fourth quarter to take the win over us. We scored 3 in the first, 7 in the second, 3 in the third, and then 8 in the actual fourth, but we just came up short by a couple of points.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with our offense, man. I mean, I guess what was your initial synopsis, man?
So I want to preface this that I'm never going to get mad at players because they try their best, right? They played their hearts out, right? They never quit. But the lowest of the season of 114 yards total for the game. That's passing and running. I was expecting that the O-line would get that same push off that they did against Sac State, and that didn't happen. The Sac State's defense is way different than Weber State's. Weber State's defense is kind of like ours, where it's in the top 5, right? I would think they showed that. But there was just no spark or creativity in the play calling. Very predictable. They didn't want to throw. They were cheating. I felt like they were cheating up and, trying to like dare us to throw long, which we didn't. They did do some creativity of having Junior Bergen kind of do the wildcat kind of thing.
How'd you feel about that?
Dude, if he can't catch a ball, then what? Like I honestly think, like, why is he even out there? If he I can't believe he was catching punts. If he has a big thing on his hand and he's running, he's going to run around. He's not really able to throw it very well, which he did though on that 2-point conversion, I believe.
He did.
Or was that Kellen White?
I think that was Keelan. I think Keelan scored that extra point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I may
be wrong. I may be wrong, but if I remember correctly, I almost was certain that it was Keelan.
I just don't understand that. He's hurt. He's, what if he went in that game and busted his hand up even worse, right? And I just did not get throwing him out there when he can't catch a ball and he just can run. I was excited, I'm going to say this, and I think probably pissed some people off. That game was not as close as the final score was. They were in that fourth quarter, we're running it down our neck, down our throat, as you would say. They were getting 8-7 yards a carry on first down. We were thankfully kind of graced with Malik Flowers running that kick return back, which kind of got us into like this, hey, we have a chance. But if it wasn't for that, man, it would have been a blowout, 24-13, 24, whatever that it was. Chris Brown, 10 for 17 for 72 yards, sacked 4 times. Nick Osmo, 10 attempts for 26 yards. Marcus had 9 attempts for 22. Junior Bergen had 5 attempts for 23. But man, they've got it. I honestly don't, and I don't blame Chris, because he's only doing what he's able to do because what of the coaching staff is letting him do, or play calling, right?
Yeah, basically. I agree with that 100%. That's one thing that I was thinking about. I think Chris got put in a situation where, he has to follow a certain rule book, which is totally fine. That's what the players are going to do 10 out of 10, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. I just think, playing to his strengths has not been something that I have seen out there, There's a couple of things that, you just want to critique off of just, basic quarterback play, watching it from a couch, obviously, but at the end of the day, I just think the full utilization of being able to play to his strength, it's still work in progress. And when you think about the grand scheme of our whole offensive performance, I mean, it just wasn't up to par in any direction,
Well, and
our
a lot
offensive.
of
Go ahead.
a lot of the Grizz fans were saying, "Hey, get Chris out of there," and I understand where they're coming from, right? I understand. Hey, we're not pushing the ball very much. We're not doing anything where it's moving the ball. Get somebody in there that maybe has a shot. Now, what's the worst that could happen? We could turn the ball over. We could not make some type of anything, but just calling run plays and being predictable is the same thing. Like, I just don't understand why you don't throw somebody out there where it might give you a spark. It might not.
Are you talking about Brett?
Yeah, do something like, and I don't mean to be on Chris, but if they're not going to use him, and I said this last year, they didn't do it last year either. He's thrown into these situations where, hey, go play against JMU. Good luck. National TV, go play against Eastern Washington on national. All these games he's been in are nationally televised, and they don't use him the right way. And it's a pattern. And I don't understand why this keeps on happening. And it's kind of it happens all the time where when we don't have a quarterback that can run, a hybrid system where he can run and he can pass, and Bobby kind of gets back to this like Bobby ball where you just kind of go back to the early 2000s, and he gets kind of stuck into, hey, we're going to run it. We're not going to have really any type of passing option with this, and we're just going to rely on our defense. Well, our defense got tired at the end of that game. Our defense has been carrying us for 2-3 straight weeks, and our offense hasn't been able to give it any rest. And this is exactly what happened last year. Our defense carried the whole year, and when we got into the playoffs, when we got into a situation where we found a like opponent or a dominant opponent, our defense could only do so much, and we got steamrolled. And I see it happening again, and I don't understand why something's not being done. I don't know if it's just me and I don't see it and they are doing things, or if they're the coaching staff is unwilling to do something different because they believe in the system. But it doesn't look good, man. It really doesn't. And if it doesn't get better, I would think that some changes in the offseason would have to be made, because this is beginning to roar its ugly head every year. And if you go into it, if you look at developing a quarterback, right? I really feel like they have done Chris Brown a detrimental like disservice to him. I feel like they really haven't developed him enough where they're playing to his strengths. They're not developing Britt where they're playing him any. So they're not developing any of their quarterbacks behind them. We haven't had a quarterback play a whole season since, I believe, like 2009. I think Jordy Johnson was the first one where we had a quarterback play a whole season without getting hurt. And when you consistently don't develop your quarterbacks, then you have to go out into the transfer portal. And that's what we're doing. All the quarterbacks that we have gotten have been transfer portal. And thank goodness we have. Snead, transfer portal. Cam Humphreys, transfer portal. Lucas Johnson, transfer portal. So all these quarterbacks that they're bringing in, either they're not developing the quarterbacks to where they think they need to, and they're not doing a good enough job, and they're having to go in the transfer portal, or something's missing because it looks bad. It looks really bad.
I think my biggest kind of my 2 cents on this whole conversation, just really quickly, and it might be a little bit skewed from what we're focusing on right now, is I do think you make a point, with the past three quarterbacks that, have been the starters, have been from the transfer portal. If I'm a recruit coming out of high school, I have an opportunity to come Montana, really kind of a place that's a mecca of football, as Riley kind of states it.
Yeah.
It has top tier facilities. It has an awesome crowd to play in front of. Schools which you make it so, you could be successful here just as much as anywhere, And so because of that, when I think about it, what is that going to do to the kid when he realizes and he sees, hey, they only let the transfer portal guys start?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's I guess that's my biggest, my pain point there, simply because, as a high school recruit, you have to go somewhere. You can't just go to JC and then enter the transfer portal from there.
Yeah.
You want to believe that you have the type of talent to, bring a championship team or championship to a football team.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I see that. I mean, it kind of turns me off to the idea, hey, I'm not going to touch the field, potentially ever, simply because they keep bringing in these guys. Granted, these guys are good leaders to, be behind.
Yeah.
But utilizing them in a way to put them in a position to be successful, that's kind of what we want out of it. Those top programs, you'll see transfers, coming in and out of those programs, but the top programs, they build from within. When you hear all those great quarterbacks, I got recruited out of high school and I've been there. It's not, hey, I transferred around and moved around. Don't get me wrong, there are stories like that.
Yeah.
But you just time and time again see dominant programs, build from within, and then start trickling, those players that are going to be an asset to the team.
Well, and if you look at like some of the like one we're going to talk about in Cal Poly, they have that Brash, who's been doing pretty well. I think he's like a sophomore or freshman. Giovanni McCoy, he's I think a redshirt freshman where he played a little bit last year. And I do think that they're I wouldn't say afraid. I think they're hesitant to throw in a redshirt freshman or sophomore in there. Because honestly, Chris Brown isn't a sophomore. Like he's been around the program a couple years, but like I totally get your thought process, Angel. Because like if you watch a Montana game, you're like, hey, that's a defense I want to play in because of their system, right? And then you look at our offense and say, if you're a quarterback, do you really want to play in that system? Like we have awesome running backs, amazing, awesome wide receivers, but we don't get the ball to our athletes. We have Cole Grossman, who's probably the best tight end in the Big Sky Conference, and he barely gets one target a game. And like he is so versatile, you could do so many different things with him.
And you know what? At a certain point, I felt like this, and I hate to even start going down this thought process. It's a strategy. You know what I mean? I think it's a strategy conflict. I don't know if it's one thing that we're getting, I guess carried away here and thinking that this old school type of mentality. Don't get me wrong. There's 99% of it that I agree with because it helped me kind of bring back a passion of being able to want to be there. And be a part of a program and, be part of something that's bigger than yourself and be there for my teammates and coaches and those sort of things. But at the end of the day, you see, these types of performances where it is, defensive based, you
Yeah.
know, completely defensive based, and then we're on a hope and prayer that hey, we score a couple touchdowns in order to give us a lead. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so because of that, you know, you start to kind of question, hey, you know, what's going on in those coaches' offices? You
Hmm.
know, how are we, you know, strategizing week by week? You know, is there something that we're missing here? You know, and this is by no fault of this on them by any means, you know, but it's a hey, put your head together and let's figure out what we need to do to steer the ship in the right direction. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where they're at in the season, you know, because I know those coaches are there, you know, until 10, 11 o'clock every
Oh
single
yeah.
night. I see the work that they put in, you know, but then you see kind of, you know, a repetitive, you know, attempt, you know, to score touchdowns. And yeah, we have the athletes to do it, but at the same time, it's chess like checkers. It doesn't work
Hmm.
just because you have a superior talent on the offensive side. You know, you have to kind of strategize a little bit. And so because of that, I just think it's one of these moments in the season where they need to take a second back and be like, all right, let's step back and figure out what we need to do. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and honestly, and I haven't done it, but I would love someone even way smarter than me to do it. If you look back at the like last, 3 or 4 years, right? And you look at how many points our offense scored, how many points our defense has scored, and then how many we've scored on special teams like kick return or punt return, to actually see how many points on offense we're actually scoring a season. Because if you really look at it, like our special teams has, up to this year, has been a blessing to us because usually they score either a kick return or a punt return. Our defense usually scores a touchdown or gets us an interception. If we didn't have those, man, what would it look like?
Mm-hmm.
What would the ending score be if that happened? So and it just it's really hard because I really truly believe we have the talent,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it even harder to like understand. And I'm not going to understand it because I'm not there. I'm not a coach. I didn't play college ball, but I can see the talent. I can see that we have the talent and we're not using it to maximize what we're doing on offense. And it just it hurts me because I can't imagine what those players are feeling like, and what's going to have to happen because and I'm gonna Bobby likes to hire his guys, right? It's a fact, right? And so are they going to be willing to change this week? Lucas, he made some warm-ups in Weber State, which was really weird because he warmed up, had his pads, went through drills, and then they didn't play him, and he was in street clothes. So was
I
that just
uh
like
I, I
was that
I've
just a
been there before.
was that just a ploy by Hauk, or was it?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a game of this is why it's a little bit confusing on the philosophy, simply because we know, you know, Bobby can beat a chess player when it comes to strategizing, when keeping
Yeah,
things close to the chest, those sort of
yeah,
things. And so I remember my senior year when I was out for a game or two. I think I was out for 2 games or something like that. I was out for a game or two. I banged at my knee, and then it was the same situation. I traveled with the team. I knew I wasn't going to play the game, but they had me dress up. They had me warm up as best as I could, you know, simply because again, it's a strategy. You know, when you walk out and you see
hmm,
Lucas Johnson back in the game, and then you see what he potentially was doing those first couple of drives, you know, over there in Sac State, you know,
yeah,
as a coach on the other side, you get, you know, there's a little bit of an anxiety buildup, like, oh shit, okay, we prepped for this, but it's going to be a lot more challenging than we, you know, initially anticipated because we were under the impression that Chris might have been playing. And
yeah,
so because of that, I understand the thought process there. I mean, it was really encouraging and a little bit confusing for everybody on Twitter. You know, everybody was freaking out. Who's the starter? Who's the starter? I kind of already knew that that was going to be the case, especially with the
yeah.
head injury that happened, you know, 6, 7 days beforehand. And so because of that, I expected it. But it's kind of funny seeing the hysteria on Twitter. You know,
Well, and
oh,
I kind of figured that he
yeah.
wouldn't play, but I was just like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, yeah, it's a neat little thing that Bobby likes to do, man. And so I again, you know, but it's one of those things is, you know, you start to, you know, feel a little bit hopeful, you know, in the
Yeah,
beginning, that, oh, maybe he is okay, you know, but ultimately, like, I think they put them in the best position to say, hey, you know what, we're going to need you to travel with us, we're going to need you to be a part of this, help out the other quarterbacks.
Mhm.
But also it'd be nice to go out there and give them a little bit of a scare,
Yeah.
And I think that's the thought process there. And it's nice to have Chris and Lucas over there too, just being able to have that, that helping hand to be able to say, hey, you know what, make sure you're watching for this, So,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
ultimately, like I said beforehand, by no means do I think it's a fault of any of those players. I
Yeah.
know, especially Chris. I think he's a talented player for a lot of reasons.
Yep.
Does he have a lot to develop? 100%, a hundred
Yeah.
percent. Could he be better in certain areas? Yeah, there's always something to coach on. You
Yep.
know, and obviously, he's still working his way, and even though he's been here for a couple of years now, it just shows. I think that the lack of development. And
Yep.
that's what kind of worries me a little bit, simply because again, he's from Montana,
Yeah.
or I think he's from California, and then he moved
Moved him
out here
on.
to what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think that was his story. But you think about where he first started to where he is now. You put him in a position to potentially win the games, hang with the best of them. You
Oh
saw
yeah.
him hang with,
Yep.
you
Sac
saw him hang
State.
with Sac
Yep.
State. You saw him
Yep.
hang with Weber State. So there's no, by any means, I think he's, a bad quarterback. It's quite the opposite. But yeah, man, I think the development just hasn't been there for him, and I feel bad about it, simply because I want more for him.
Well, it's gonna hit us. It's gonna hit the program one of these days, right? And it probably already is. That these recruits are seeing, hey, probably don't want to go there because hey, I can go somewhere else and get developed a little bit. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens here in the next 3 months, 4 months, see what happens. And also just like I know they have a offense and a defense like assistant guy, a person that watches or is a person that kind of gives thoughts. And I know that Fennessy is that person for the offense. And I know they have a defensive one. I can't remember what his name was, but I'm just wondering how are they using that? Like, I don't know. More heads is it always better than one? Or is there too many heads in? Too many heads in it. I don't know. I hope that it's better. Hopefully Lucas comes back. If not, I hope that they do something different. This is the time to do it. But it's a do or die game. Like they have to win this game.
Yeah,
They're gonna have to win out.
yeah, I mean, the importance of playoff implications, just
Yep.
to even be considered, I mean, we're gonna need to win all three games, convincingly enough to,
Yep.
convince the Big Sky Conference to basically, give us an opportunity, give us a shot to be in the playoffs. Because again, the talent level is there. You see flashes of greatness
Yep.
from all sides of the ball. You see some really strong special teams play. You see consistently some really strong defensive play, and a little bit less frequently, but still, every once in a while you'll see something on the offense that you're like, wow, that was really fun to see. That was
Mm-hmm.
really electric,
Yeah.
and so because of that, the talent's there. It's just about figuring out what we need to do to get there, to get the job done. Because if we have lackluster performances, these next 2 weeks against teams that we should win,
By a
obviously that we
lot.
should beat by a lot,
Yeah.
it puts us in position, from the Big Sky's eyes to really kind of question. I was like, are they just, not consistent enough to be able to hang out with just really good teams, or were they bad days for those good teams, or
Yeah.
who, whatever the question may be, and I know these guys like to do things convincingly. I know that's how Bobby works. And so I think just putting us in a position to not even be a question and let it be known that, hey, we should be in there. It's going to be kind of tough because if we lose another game, even if it's to the Cats, to the neighbors, I just don't foresee it being a reality for us.
Yeah, and I hope that the selection committee, it's a wide
Well,
range of
and on the side note, I mean, maybe
yeah,
who knows? Simply because I mean, we bring in so much money,
yeah,
when it comes down to it. But
yep,
I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough thing. So sorry.
yeah. What's nice about it is Kent Haslam is a part of the selection committee, with all these athletic directors that kind of make that selection committee. But right now we're just fighting other teams that are could possibly end up at 7-4 that have probably wins. And we're going up against ourselves right now where we don't have a win against a winning record team, where what kills me is we should be 7-1, right?
Yeah, we should.
Like Sac State, like we should have had that game. Idaho, we let them just stay in it and stay around, and like honestly, we blew that game. They played well and they played their system really well and what they wanted to do to us, but we should have beat that team as well. This is the first game where, hey, we have met a like opponent and our offense isn't doing well, and they beat us. They beat us handedly. It wasn't close. To me, it wasn't even close because they were getting a lot of yards on their running plays. So it'll be interesting. We've got to play our best right now and headed into these last 3 games.
Yeah, on the counter argument, just to how productive they've been on their offense. I mean, we still held them to 24 points.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, last week we handed the number 2 team in the country. I mean, they scored what 20 points, 21 points, or something like that. 24,
20, yeah. They scored 31, so they scored 24 against us when they were averaging like what 50.
Yeah,
45, 50, something like that.
I mean, you're talking about prolific offense that is averaging over 500 yards a game, and we keep them to a little bit under their below average.
Yep.
And then before that, the week before, I mean, still put us in a position to win. We could have won that game with our defensive performances. Obviously, there's always some things to critique. But again, just kind of coming back to the offense, man. I mean, just there needs to be a little bit more of a I mean, crawl out of this whole mentality, you know what I mean? Yep. In order to get the job done, because, no matter how good our special teams is or our defense is or the other phases of the game, we're going to need to get some yards in order to just be competitive, Yeah.
Yeah. And, what's kind of weird is that our defense did amazing, and we'll get to that, but I won't touch too much on that. But, we lose Patrick O'Connell, right? First quarter, he goes down. I was, really surprised how the defense played without him. Well, I wasn't surprised because I knew we got guys behind him that can play. We've got some injuries, man. We're racking up some of the injuries. Junior Bergen is still hurt. He wasn't at his full strength. Nick Osmo, I saw him kind of twist an ankle. Deary Todd was down a couple different times. Patrick O'Connell was out. Jackson Lee wasn't playing. He was hurt. He's a special teams guy. We still have Lucas Johnson hurt. And I'm sure there's others out there that are nursing injuries or they're just playing through it, right? That this is that time of year. Angel, you've told us about, some of the injuries you've played through, right? And so it's next guy up. It's just this year where you gotta push through, right? And hopefully we do that. But you want to talk about the defense, man?
Yeah, let's talk about the defense, man. I mean, like I said, I was pretty thoroughly impressed, for the most part, even on the defensive output against a pretty good offense.
Yeah.
I think we did a couple of good things right, but I do think at the end of the game, like you said it early on, I just think it was just too much. We got a little bit tired. It's hard to be out there for, majority of the game trying to stop an offense like that and be successful time and time again, because, with an offense like that, they're going to score some points. It's just inevitable. It's what they are. That's the characteristics of what that program is.
Yeah.
That's what the coach wants to do. I think he's a pretty damn good coach. So it was entertaining to see, but it was also a little bit heartbreaking simply because at the end of it, they're like, man, we're doing whatever we can, but we're just not getting there. I mean, shout out to the defensive line, man. I mean, I think they've been playing like some dogs all year long.
Yep.
But it's tough to be out there, man. It's tough to be out there. And the more time that you're on the field, the more your body hurts, the more sore you are. And so it just sucks to see.
Yeah. Well, and if you break it down, like you look at the defense when they got scored on, 2 big plays, right? The passing play where I don't know if Justin Ford got shook up or if he tried to jump it, or if I think it was Nash Fouch kind of went off him, and then that Tyson McPherson kind of was left unchecked going down and kind of threw it. And
McPherson's a really good player.
Yeah,
guys.
he's really good.
He's a dog. He's a dog for sure.
That was a huge play that they got for a touchdown. And then I think it was Bankston that had that 40 or 50-yard touchdown run as well. So 2 big plays, 14 points, right? 14 of the 24 came on 2 plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like that with those games where it's close. Who's going to make the mistake? Who's going to push through and make those big plays? And they made the big plays. They made more big plays where they actually scored on them. Justin Ford, awesome interception.
Yeah, how fun was that to see?
That's just 2 in a row, right? 2 games in a row because he had one against Sac State as well.
Yeah, I believe he did, man. I believe he
So,
did. He's just a talented player, man.
yeah.
Talented player, man. I really hope he gets an opportunity to play on Sundays because I think he's going to stir up the league. I think he's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for that opportunity, and that's on the side note. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same thing. But yeah, the defense just got wore down, man. There's only so much you can do, like you've said and I've said, with that defense. 192 yards running. A lot of those were in the fourth quarter. Were on first down, where they were racking up in that fourth quarter 7-8 yards a run, making sure that those third downs were really easy for them to get. And so their third down percentage was 8 of 18, and they were 1 for 1 on fourth down. So they had a good game plan, man. Ground and pound, get big plays on the pass. And, I think that once you see after a couple series that their offense or our offense wasn't going to do much where they needed to kind of be worried about, and they kept on seeing that, they could kind of sit back and say, hey, we're just going to run the ball. We're going to find out where we want to kind of hit. We're going to relax, and we're just going to take this, and we're just going to make them get tired, right? And that's what they did, man. They grounded and pound. They found those spots where they could take advantage of huge plays. And, you got to give them credit, man, because it was a good team. It was a hard loss, another hard loss. And we got to go to that next one, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, dude. I mean, it's tough to see. Obviously the mindset right now is keep it all behind you because that's all they can do. So, but because there's no time to sit here and be feeling sorry for yourself and those sort of things. And I know those guys are already onto this week, but at the same time, I mean, just looking back on it, you're like, oh gosh, how heartbreaking. How you feel for the defense a little bit. Just taking a pounding like that repeatedly. You feel for the offense simply because we know we have the firepower and the talent to really be prolific and dynamic in a lot of different ways. And then obviously special teams. I mean, shout out to the special teams, man. I think we were pretty solid all the way around.
Except for that block, it almost blocked one field goal, but it went in. It went off the guys, and it went in. I was like, "Oh, okay, we'll take that. We'll take that."
I mean, still at the end of the day, on the stat board, it's 2 for 2.
Exactly.
One return for a touchdown on a kick return, which was awesome to see, and which is why it just goes to show how athletic Malik is.
Yeah.
I just think it's something, again, underutilized player. When it comes to the offensive scheme, I think for sure. When I see that type of stuff, you see why the people don't kick to him because every time, every chance, he could almost break it. There's been multiple times this season where I was just like, he's going to break that dog. He's going to take it to the crib, 6, party in the end zone type of feeling. And he trips up on somebody or, what a mistake happens, a guy misses his block. So because of that, you're like, oh, he's right there. He's right there. So I'd love to see him get a couple more by the end of the season.
Well, and he's tied for number 2 in the FCS all time. And that one that he scored on was amazing, dude. He ran into his blocker.
I know.
Bounced off, found a hole, and then was off. Amazing.
I saw that, dude.
Grit, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, just to be able to have the type of awareness because, I'm thinking of myself in that situation. I'm just like, all right, well, this is it. I'm on a pile now. The fact that he was able to regroup, reread the field, and then make a cut to the right, giving an opportunity to, gain a couple yards. And again, he's so athletic and he's so fast. It gives him an opportunity to just, hey, catch me if you can type of mentality. So,
yeah. And that just kills me too, because then you bring it back to the offense and I'm just like, we have so many talented players. Like, it just kills me, man. It just kills me. Oh, can we move on to the next one?
Let's move on to the next one, buddy. I feel like we need to. We're trying to keep it short. We're trying to keep it shorter on the recap simply because it's already in the past. What's done is done. All we can do is complain about it and cry about it, but we got to move on to what we got ahead of us.
Heck, and if it was a lot brighter on a brighter note, I might want to talk a little bit more about it. But 3 weeks in a row where we lose, like, and that's the thing, man, is our losses aren't like blowout losses. What, like
No,
Weber State 3,
no, that'd be so much easier to digest if it was.
exactly.
Because
Sac State, what, 7 in
then you know
overtime?
where we stand. Then
Yeah,
you know that it'd be like, hey, you know what? These teams are just,
they're
they're
better than
that much
us.
better than us.
Yeah, but they're
But when
not.
you see those types of performances and we're on the cusp and, it's hanging on by a thread and we're like, maybe we can, maybe we can't. I can't imagine the people that have been betting money, these past couple of
Oh
weeks.
man, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you know why? Because I'm one of them. I've been rooting for Montana for 3 weeks in a row, man. Let's just say the football program owes me some money.
You lost some money, man, huh? Uh,
It's
I
all
know
love,
that
though.
I know that we haven't for 3 weeks in a row we haven't been able to do a winner because we both have said the Grizz.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And
but
we don't count losses here. We only do the W's.
exactly right. Well, I don't. And I'm not a betting person. I hate losing money. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I guess you could probably do that based off of just score, but I don't know. I guess if you say your team wins, then you got to win. Your team's got to win. So
Exactly. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. It's okay.
So
But we're on to better things now.
exactly. Well, let's go into Cal Poly, man. They are 1-6, 0-5 in the conference. I believe this is his Bo Baldwin's second season, I believe.
I thought it was his third. Is it not his third?
Is it his third? It might be his third.
Maybe.
I might be off on that. But so he's still in that rebuilding phase, man. Let's go down their schedule. Their 35-7 loss against Fresno State. Their only win was against the San Diego team, which is a part of I believe it's the Pioneer League, where they don't offer scholarships. I don't know. It's kind of
no scholarships there. Yeah.
Yeah. They beat San Diego 28-27. They lost to South Dakota 38-21. They lost to Sac State 49-21, and then lost to NAU 29-31. Lost to Idaho State 40-31. Lost to Eastern Washington 10-17, and then this last week lost to Davis 59-17. So they are the number 5 offense in the league. They're the third best passing offense in the whole FCS. They can pass the ball around. They're number 1 in the league, Big Sky, for passing. Their defense is nothing to kind of like shock and awe about. They're number 11 in defense, last. They're last in passing. They're 8th in defense, rush. But they're throwing the ball, man. They are slinging it for 326 plus yards average this year. Their quarterback, Spencer Brash, is 139 of 235 for 1759, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So passing for yardage, but not as accurate. He's got the interceptions in there. Their running back, Jacoby Harper, 72 attempts for 287 and 1 touchdown. These stats for their wide receivers are crazy. Chris Coleman, I believe they're senior this year, 50 receptions, 808 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then Josh Suarez, 37 receptions, 404 with 4 touchdowns. And then they got Bryson Allen, 18 receptions for 232 and 1 touchdown. They're going to want to pass it, man. They're going to want to pass the ball. They get out and do some weird things with their running back. I believe that he comes out of the backfield and kind of gets little passes too. So our backfield is going to be tested early.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
So it's going to be kind of an interesting thing, as well as it's a night game, man. And weather, it's getting kind of colder out there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays effect and what they want to do as well. And so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting what they do with their wide receivers. We already know what they want to do. The recipe is to line them up with one of our safeties and see if they can get a guy going down the middle. So we already know that's what they're going to want to do because it's on tape, and that they've been doing that for the last couple years. And so those are the guys on offense that you kind of have to watch out for. But going into like Cal Poly, they're only averaging about 25 points a game this year, only about 122 yards on the ground. 20 of their 27 touchdowns have been passing touchdowns. And so third down percentage, they're about 35%. Fourth down, they're about 45%. And they let a lot of offense go. The opponents are averaging over 478 yards on them. In their offense is throwing and running and stuff for 448. So they're getting out yardage by 30 some yards, and being outscored by about 7+ points. So that is their offense, man. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
I mean, you just kind of hit it on the head when you first started. Obviously, there's no surprise. We're going to be expecting a lot of, kind of mismatch. You're going to try to exploit some of those mismatch in order to kind of create, just a scenario where they get a couple yards down the field, through a pass. I think that is their bread and butter. It kind of obviously reminds me of Baldwin's first stint or second stint when he was over at Eastern. He had the same type of mentality. He loved to pass the ball. So because of that, I think it put him in a position to say, hey, that's how I want to develop the team. But it's hard to transition a team that, is completely unfamiliar with something like that. So, but don't get me wrong, he's a really good coach. Like you said, with that quarterback, you said 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's kind of tough.
Yep.
And so because of that, it's going to go unfold one of two ways. It makes me believe that he is a risk taker. He is not scared to make a mistake because ultimately he could potentially, put him in a position to score a couple points against us. So because of that, I think it's the same thing. I think our secondary is going to be challenged this week. Simply because we're pretty good on all phases of what a defense is supposed to do. I do think a thing where we lack is really kind of the passing game, and how do we kind of utilize our strength to be able to cover some of their guys, especially if that's what they know, if that's how he's building them to be. They're gonna expect, because I'm sure they've ran into a couple good teams this year, right?
Oh yeah, they've ran into they've played Sac State. They've played Sac State. They've played UC Davis, which is a pretty good team. That's kind of a team that will probably be in line for possibly, if they win out, one that we're going to be going against to make the playoffs. But they don't have, which I dislike with the Big Sky. The conference schedule is not even, right? We have probably one of the hardest conference schedules, because we're playing 4 of the 5 top teams, because I'm counting the Montana as one of those 5 top teams. We're playing 4 of them, and they're all on the road, except for Idaho. I'd say probably 3 of those on the road. And so the Cats have this kind of a closer schedule, but some of those games are at home. They had Weber State at home, and so that plays an account into it. And so they're not playing the same teams. On paper, we should be beating this team by a lot, right? And so it's going to be honestly, I'm going to really want to watch this quarterback and our backfield, because he's going to take some shots. Are we going to play it safe? We're going to go after it, because I can see 2 things happening. We play our backfield plays awesome, and we've got a couple picks, right? And maybe we've even got a couple scores. Or hey, we get beat a couple times, and like we've been got last week, and hey, they get a couple touchdowns on us. If our offense isn't playing up to the capabilities that it can, if we don't have Lucas back, are we going to still do the same thing that we did this week? It could be a closer game. So I still don't know what I'm going to do for my predictions. But
we're thinking ahead. I like it. I like it. Ultimately, when I think about it, man, I mean, I think this should be a very easy win for us.
It
There's
should.
no question about
Yep.
it. You know,
Yep.
obviously with the strength that we or the with the weaknesses that we've had these past couple weeks,
Yep.
I do think this past week has been a hey, look at yourself in the mirror, realize what we need to do. Those that kind of conversations going on with the coaches, with the players. You know, what do we need to do to get back on track? I think this is the perfect place to play this game. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be at home. It's going to give those guys an opportunity to build a little more confidence and understand that, hey, you know what? We're not a bad team. We just had a bad run. Let's pick it back up and let's get back on the horse. Those sort of things.
Yep.
Ultimately, I do also think that this is going to be a great game. You know, to really kind of utilize Chris and Daniel. I
Yes.
do think that I would love to see that. I would love to, get enough of a convincing lead first quarter, second quarter, and then from there get those guys a rotation and really start building that foundation of, hey, we're going to get these guys in to develop them, put them in situations that they may not be accustomed to in order to learn. Because
Yeah.
that's the best way that you learn. That's the best way that I learned. You know,
Yep.
when I got thrown out to the field as opposed to practice, it's a very different feel. It's a very different speed. And you're going after someone that, hey, is not your friend at the end of the day. He's going after someone that's going to, that wants to murder you, that wants to hurt you.
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
so because of that, I think it would be great to utilize those guys and see them. And I'd love to see Daniel out there too, just to get some
Yeah.
experience, you
Yeah.
know. And so because of that, this might be kind of the game that we need in order to get back on track.
Yeah. Well, and there it's perfect because I think we need to get the confidence back. I
Yeah.
don't think the confidence is very high right now. And, we've got 2 games where they're winnable games and we should win them on paper. The Cal Poly, I think, will win this game. That Eastern Washington, even though they're not playing well, that team still kind of scares me because, they're going to want to beat us, right? They're going to be pissed off that we beat them in the playoffs. They want revenge. And they don't have anything to, play for except for beating us and ruining our
Yep.
season. Right. And
Yep.
so that's always kind of a scary
And
thing.
it's the same story with Cal Poly too.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I mean, at this point, they have absolutely nothing to lose, so they can put it all on
Yep.
the line and not have to worry about anything. I
Yep.
mean, they're an 0-5 team in the conference. I
Yep.
mean, 100%. Why not take off the big dogs and put them out of potential playoff contentions because they'll be sitting at home with us too.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
hope those guys, know that hey, you know what, like we said before, this is all or nothing. You
Yep.
know, could we have a potential, really, really great playoff run? Maybe,
Yeah.
but we got to get there first, and
Yep.
I think everybody, and including me too, and I think including you,
Yep.
when we first started the season, it was, hey, where are we going to be sitting in the playoffs, looking ahead, maybe too far into the future, those sort of things, and then now look at us, we're on the outside, trying to figure out, what's our best way to, have an opportunity to play in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, and going into it, I wouldn't have, and it's something that hasn't happened. What I think I heard 3 times in the last 40 or 50 years that we've had 3 losses in a row. It's only happened like 3 or 4 other times.
Has it really?
So in the last 30 or 40 years, that's only happened 3 times, 3 or 4 times.
Huh.
So something like this where we lose 3 straight hasn't happened that much. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of uncharted territory where I believe the last one I think was in, and I could be wrong, so I think it was like in Bobby's first stint, 2003, 2004. I want to say it's around that area. I could totally be off. But I believe it was in one of his first stints here. But their defense, man, going to their defense, they've got a couple of linebackers that are racking up the tackles. David Meyer, 60 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Their defensive back. Their defensive back. Wow, oh my gosh. Their defensive back. Brian Dukes, 45 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and then an interception. Dustin Green, 29 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. And then their defensive line, Elijah Ponder, has got 31 tackles and 6 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. So, and like I said earlier, that their defense isn't something that you're going to be worried about. It is just getting and battling that offense. And so their special teams, really nothing to kind of look at. Their punter, Thomas
So the
Lee.
strength of their team is going to be their offense.
Their
Then.
strength of their team is their offense, is the
Mm-hmm.
passing offense, is their players to watch out for are their wide receivers. Their wide
Mm-hmm.
receivers are good. They get them out, and they've got a lot of yards. That Coleman wide receiver got 808 yards. I should see where that's probably number 1 or number 2 in the conference. And so their punter, not really like where we are at. He's averaging about 36 yards an average. Their punt returner is averaging about 7 yards a return. Their kick returner is about 20 yards a return. Their field goal kicker's only kicked 8 field goals.
Mm.
He's hit 5. And so nothing to really worry about. It's just worrying about, hey, can we get our offense? Like we've said, we are our own in all these games. We're playing against ourselves, right? The only game where we played against a formidable opponent would be Sac State and Weber State. And in that Sac State, we had that game. We did. There's some unforeseeable things, and I know you can't, blame it on that, where we probably shouldn't have done some of the things that we did and be in that circumstance. The Weber game was the only game where I was like, yeah, they're playing better than us. They're probably the better team right now. Not to say that we couldn't beat them, because, hey, we only lost by 3 with an offense that only had 114 yards in the whole game. And I believe we only had like 8 or 9 yards in the second half.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
It was something crazy like that. So it's really hard, man. It's really hard to see where this team is going. I hope that they've got their head on right, because, man, I can't imagine the uproar, right? This 3-game streak hasn't happened in a long time, right? You've got champion expectations. You've got conference expectations, and you lose 3 straight. You falling out of the rankings, right? You were number 2, number 3, and now we're number 16, I believe. You've got pandemonium going on that, hey, we might miss the playoffs. Then you add in, hey, I heard that, our AD is in line maybe for a chance to get another AD job. With Kent Haslam maybe going to Utah State. So it's kind of some unsubtleties in the football arena. So it'll be interesting to see how they have them. And I want to say that they'll have them ready, but we've been saying that for how many weeks, so, man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that isn't the players' fault. I think it's not having a good game plan. Like, honestly, and I'm just a couch potato. So you can be, if the coaches are listening, you guys know a whole lot more than me, but try to tell me that if you had a different game plan and did something different, that you couldn't get that offense to score a couple more points, because that's all you needed. You need one play. And so it's going to be interesting this week. Go support the guys. They really need it this week. Really support them, raise them up. Don't degrade them. They are players, man. They don't get paid for this.
Yeah. No, I think ultimately, from a player's perspective, I think it's really easy to get sucked into, all the fans, what's going on, what are the moving parts that are happening outside or around the realm of, the football program. I think this is really just, a challenge to them to really take this as an opportunity to really clear all that out. I think in the grand scheme of things, you always hear about football players and, how do they prepare for games? I think this is how they prepare for games. They make that conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm going to block everything out. All I can control is what's in front of me. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about how we're hoping for better performances, but it's them on that field. It's not us.
Oh, yeah.
It's them shedding that blood, that sweat, that tears, that we just can't be a part of. No matter how much we want to be, at the end of the day, the root of the actual concern is that we just want to be able to support these guys and put them in best positions to win, because that's what we want. you know. But I think it's time to be the predator this week and not the prey, you know.
Yep.
That's one thing that we preach about in the program, you know. We that's what we pursue to be week in, week out, is a predator, never the prey, you know. And so it's really easy to look at ourselves and say, you know what, things haven't been going our way. Let's just fold over, call it a season. Let's make changes and then just end the whole program for the rest of the year. But that's not how it works. You know, the job is still in sight. It's just about going to get it done, and it starts with Cal Poly. And I think if they take that mindset, you know, I truly believe that some things can turn around for the better. You know, and I do believe that, you know, the brighter days are ahead, because I just can't foresee it getting any lower than this as a fan right now. You know, being so worried about things and you know the direction of the program, because ultimately it's up to those guys to make the change. And you know what? I'm an optimist at heart, and so I do think things are gonna, you know, good things are gonna come out of all of this.
Yeah. I think that we'll win this week and hopefully get this bad juju off our backs
That's
and
all
get
it
some
is. We just gotta
confidence.
shake it off, man.
Oh
That's all we
man,
gotta do.
we
Because
do, we
one
do.
good game, one dominant performance,
Oh yeah,
everybody and their mamas, you know, goes back to, hey, we're the best team in the world. You know what I mean?
yep, yep,
Yeah, it's so black and white, hot and cold. There's never anything in the middle, you know?
yep,
And so because of that, I do think that we just need to shake off the dust, get rid of
yep.
the bad juju, be a predator, and go kick the shit out of Cal Poly. That's really, there's nothing else to be said about it.
Literally, like I would love like 60 points and just like getting all the quarterbacks in there. Like, hey, you get some time and you get some time.
You
Like,
score a touchdown, you get one.
yeah,
All
exactly.
receivers score, you know, score a touchdown or two.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Something interesting. I saw that Marcus Knight was number 1 on the depth chart for running backs, with Osmo number 2. So that's kind of like the only one that has changed. I think Harris isn't on the depth for running back. So that's kind of interesting going into this game. And I think that you can kind of see that in the last couple of games where they've been kind of going to is Osmo and Marcus.
Yeah, I wonder how
And
they're
so
going to utilize Harris, because obviously he's an athlete, you know. But
exactly.
I'm just kind of curious to see how they are going to utilize him for the rest of the season. Is he kind of sitting out and, you know,
Yeah.
kind of just, you know, I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with that, but it'll be interesting to see if they do use him and how they use him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because if
He's
it just,
he's an athlete, man.
yeah,
I hope they could use him. You know, he does really well in speed, and like I just think that, you know, throwing the ball out of the backfield to him on the side, like they just need to do that a little bit more. And he gets some speed and just
like
shake
a
and bake.
rollout.
Yeah,
Is
like
that
a
what you're saying?
rollout. Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah,
don't know.
every time you say that, I'm like, you're like, throw it to the guy on the side. I'm like,
What guy on the side?
oh my gosh, we need to up your terminology, your
Oh,
football
I know.
terminology sometimes.
I know what I'm saying. It's just no one else does.
I get you, but I'm like, you mean a rollout? Guy
uh,
to the side, you know,
yeah.
when he's running. And then I'll be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Sorry. Yeah. Let's do some predictions, man.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All
You,
right, man.
I think it's your turn to start.
Is it my turn first?
I think so. I think so.
Okay. I do think we win this week. I think that we get the juju off our backs. I'm going to say 35. I'm going to say 28. 28-10.
Okay.
Grizz.
28-10.
Yep.
Okay. I think I am going really aggressive this week. I want to do 42 on
Okay.
our offensive performance, and I only think that we're going to give up 10 points on our defensive performance. I think they're going to get one play where coverage might be busted or they might catch us on our heels. One of
Yeah.
those plays,
Yeah.
score a touchdown, and I think they may have an opportunity to score a field goal. But other than that, I think that
Yeah.
defense is going to kick the shit out of those guys, and I don't think they understand, you know, the type of pressure that we bring to the table.
No,
It's
I don't
more
think.
aggressive than Sac. It's more aggressive than some of the other teams that they
Yeah.
played. UC Davis for sure. And so
Yeah.
because of that, I think this is the first time they're going to see a defense like ours.
Yeah. And I could totally think that too is our defense probably will score at least one touchdown just with
Yeah,
the
maybe.
pressure, with the pressure that we have. I just don't know with what we're doing on offense. You know, if Lucas is back, that's awesome. If he's not, let's mix it up. Let's mix this thing up. Let's do something different.
Yeah, it'll just be good for the kids. It'll be good for them to get some of that experience, like I said beforehand.
Yep.
I think if Lucas does hit the field, I would love to see him firing on all cylinders. Like he's had, when he started at Sac State. How great was that to see? You felt comfortable as a fan. You saw him want to take over the game and really kind of strive to get those first downs on those third down conversions. So
Yeah.
because of that, it's the same expectation. Play into the game plan that the coaches can bring up as best as he can. But find a way to make it work. Whether that making some decisions that a little bit riskier, but get the job done, or kind of moving with your legs a little bit, because he has the ability to do both. He has some pretty decent pocket awareness too, and so because of that, I want him to utilize all his strengths to lead us to victory, and that's all you can hope for.
Exactly. Well, guys, I want to thank you for listening to the show.
Yeah.
Any last things, Angel, before we sign off, man?
No, man, just like we've been saying this past couple of weeks, that we joined a program on YouTube, FCS Fans Nations. There's a couple teams from the Big Sky, that give us an opportunity to just kind of check in what's going on around the Big Sky and just FCS football. Again, really good dudes that are really talented and know what they're talking about. So if you guys want to take a look at the YouTube channel page, again, it's FCS Fans Nations. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Let us know what you guys think, man. Have conversations with us. Whether it be good, bad, whether it be random, it does not matter. We just want to hear from you guys and make sure that you guys are part of this as well, or feel like you're a part of this as best as you can be. So, yeah, man, just check us out. And again, we're just, grateful for it, man. We're grateful.
Exactly. And go rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast as well. We've got, anywhere you get our podcast, you can find it. Spotify and Apple are one of the main areas that we're getting people. And rate us, review us, subscribe. That helps us get farther up in the echelon of podcasts. That helps us out. And like Angel said, if you want to get a hold of us, man. We want to get your questions. We want to get your thoughts. And hopefully we get another W, get off this snide, and go Grizz.
Fight on, baby. Let's do it.